lost our rhythm on the floor again. Been together so long we can't pretend. Remember the way we used to move, dance all night like young lovers do. Your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to. Silent disco on the floor, baby. Mr. DJ, he'll get me through. When the beat's gone, you can't save me, baby. Smoke and mirrors, pretty lights. Another runaway city boy getting too high. But boys like you tell pretty lies. The 5 a.m. low in your eyes says your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to.
This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley and I'm so pleased today that my co-host is TV presenter and proud Yankunytjatjara and Wiradjuri woman, Shelley Ware. Hello, darling Shelley.
Hello, it's so good to be here today.
Today we are bringing you a musical celebration of Australia in all of our diverse voices. We have the most glorious Indigenous songbird, Kee'ahn, joining us. We have Palestinian-born singer Aseel Tayah, who's going to be bringing us the experience of asylum seekers in Australia. We have musical legends Deborah Conway and Willy Zygier joining us. It's going to be a gorgeous musical celebration of Australia, and it's starting just after this. Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day. Broad Radio. Shelley, it's so lovely to have you with us on this 26th of January today. Now, it's a loaded day. Of course, it's called Australia Day. Many people call it Invasion Day or Survival Day. What do you call it?
Well, like you introduced me so beautifully, thank you, as a Yankunytjatjara Wiradjuri woman from South Australia, I call it Survival Day because it's a day where I reflect on the loss of many ancestors and about the path and the way that Aboriginal people have worked through the last 200 odd years. So it's a day full of emotion. So yeah, Survival Day for me.
It is a day full of emotion for many people, and there's so many conflicting opinions about the day around the whole country. For me, and really for Broad Radio too, like I love Australia and I want to have a day in which we can celebrate Australia and what it means for all of us to be Australian. And I want it to be on a day that doesn't cause pain for huge parts of our community. So it makes sense to me that we do it on a day that isn't historically a day that actually dispossessed our Indigenous peoples. So for me, it makes more sense to move it to a day that is all about celebration for everybody.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't know who it was, but somebody said the other day moving it to the 19th of Feb because of when we became Federation. And I don't know who it was who said it to me, but I didn't mind that. But it's also my birthday. So, yeah, I think we need to have a day, and I do believe in changing the date. It just brings so much animosity, and we're not united as a country, and it's not right. Like Australia Day should be a day where we are celebrating this beautiful country that we live in, and this isn't the date for me that it should be.
And there are many days it could be. I've heard the 1st of January because that was Federation. I've heard the 9th of May because that's when Parliament first sat. There's lots of different dates that we could choose. And for me too, I think it makes no sense to me that we're not hearing that people are hurt by this date, because our kids are taught in school that language and actions matter, and that you can deeply hurt people by your language and actions. And they're told that's not a good thing. Like, that's a value that our children are taught in school, right? So I don't understand why, when people then become adults, that those values don't count anymore.
I think people are losing a bit of sight of the value side, but they're not really focusing on that. What they're focusing is on their education that they have about their own history within Australia. So many of the generation that are vocal at the moment didn't actually get the same education that our children are getting today, where we're talking about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history of this country. So those children are coming through now, and they have a lot of understanding about what actually happened to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and they have a lot of empathy. So when you speak to children, they go, well, of course it should be changed, of course, because of their understanding, and of course mixed in with the values that we're teaching them within the classroom.
Well, I'm going to read a tweet that I read yesterday, Shelley, from an amazing woman by the name of Shelley Ware. I'm quoting back to you what you wrote on Twitter yesterday. As we get closer to January 26th, remind yourself of the person you want to be. It's pretty simple. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Have compassion, dignity and grace, and be your best version. Listen and learn from each other with an open heart. That is just so beautiful. I mean, it's the sort of thing we should be doing daily, obviously. But for yourself, what is it that, what would you like us to be able to adopt in this conversation?
Well, I think it's just about listening to each other, and it's listening to both sides of the story and gaining respect for each other and having that empathy of where everybody is in this situation, and coming to an understanding of what we all need to move forward to celebrate this beautiful nation together. And I think I wrote that tweet because there are days in our calendar that people forget who they are as a person and who they want to be and their best version of themselves. And often Australia Day can bring that out in people. So I just wanted to remind people, take note of who you are and remember who you are in your soul, and make sure that you transfer that in the way that you speak to people, all people within Australia on this day. That
is really a beautiful challenge to all of us, I think, Shelley. And I think incredibly generous as well. Because the fact is we are all Australian, and there are many things about Australia to be proud of, including in our history. There are amazing parts of our history to be proud of, and amazing parts of our culture to really embrace and learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important. It's important if you don't know enough about your own history and the culture of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It's about self-education. So make that time to self-educate and make sure that you have a deep understanding of why are Aboriginal people so upset? And if you don't know, self-education is so important.
Well, when I was thinking about this show and how we were going to talk about Australia, I really wanted to amplify Indigenous voices. And so that immediately led me to, the music of Indigenous culture, because it always is, to me, just glorious. So that then led me to think about, who can we have on? And we have beautiful Kee'ahn joining us in a minute. And then I was thinking about the other voices of Australia as well. And so hence that led me to Palestinian singer Aseel Tayah and to legendary singers Deborah Conway and Willy Zygier, because I grew up listening to them. Many diverse voices in Australia. To me, that's how we celebrate who we are as a country.
Yeah, we love music. Music has always led the way, hasn't it? We listen to it, we embrace it, and we tell our stories through music. And that's what Aboriginal people do, and all musicians. So we listen to those stories, and they can often change our mindset on where we stand with lots of different subjects.
That's true. It can be very powerful. Now, you are actually going to be on stage today bringing an amazing showcase of music. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I'll be at the Sydney Music Maya Bowl as the co-MC with Shelley, and we're going to be emceeing the Share the Spirit Festival, which will have a long list of artists, including a beautiful tribute today to Archie Roach, who will be there. And we're going to come together and, as it says, share our spirits and heal and share our stories as an Aboriginal community. But the beautiful part about Share the Spirit is when you look out into the crowd, the range of multicultural people that are there. It's just one of my favourite days of the year to see Australians coming together and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in that way, to say we're with you and we walk with you.
Now, I do understand it's sold out, but it will be streaming live on Facebook at Share the Spirit is the Facebook page.
I believe it's on their Share the Spirit Facebook page, and if it's not, they'll certainly have the details of where it is, and usually 3K&D Radio has it on as well all day.
Amazing.
It goes till 8 o'clock. It's a massive, massive festival.
Goes till 8 o'clock tonight?
Yeah,
my
12
gosh,
o'clock till 8 o'clock.
You have a very big day. Oh my gosh, I'm even more grateful that you've joined us this morning because you should be sleeping in, lady. I do apologise for getting you out of bed so early. Whilst we're talking about streaming live and Facebook and all of that, it would be great if you are watching us on YouTube right now, if you could just chuck us a like and subscribe. That would be really helpful to us. If you're watching on Facebook, chuck us a like as well, because as we're starting out, these numbers really help, and we love having you a part of our community so we can share more of what we're doing. Now, I think it's time to get to our first incredible musician.
Our first performer, Kee'ahn, has a voice that captures and draws in your soul. Kee'ahn's name comes from the Wik people, and it means to dance, to sing and to play.
Hello, Kee'ahn. It's lovely to have you on Broad Radio.
Hi, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I was reading about your music. It is so glorious. And you were saying that it has really empowered you a lot in your mental health journey. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started writing music, just as a release of my emotions. I grew up with anxiety, very soft, shy kid. So yeah, singing with my family since I was little was a way for me to just express myself. And then, I guess the words that I'd write and the songs that I'd write were just listening to, I guess, those voices inside and just trying to express, and connect with others in a way that I wasn't able to before. But I wrote Better Things, which is like my debut single, about moving from North Queensland to Melbourne and just trying to get out of my shell and love the parts of myself that I knew needed more love. So it's definitely mainly there for my mental health. Well, that's just a benefit of music, I think.
I think for all of us, it's a benefit of music. Absolutely. So that's the song you're going to do for us today, Better Things?
Yes, I'd love to.
Oh, away you go.
Thank you. I've been wondering how I'd navigate this world. And I've been wondering how to speak my truth out loud, not afraid to get hurt. But how can I grow flowers when all I've got is a weed? So I'm digging them all up, planting some new seeds. 'Cause now I've got a blue, try and get over you, know what to do, so I can start anew, and the pain thorns will bring will be obsolete. 'Cause one thing I know, want to better things. And I've been wondering how to learn to love myself. And I've been wondering But I think it starts with my mental health. But how can I grow flowers when all I've got is a weed? So I'm digging them all up and planting some new seeds. 'Cause now I've got a blue. Try and get over you. Know what to do. So I can start anew. And the paint on to bring will be obsolete. It's one thing I know. On to better things. Ooh, 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 oh.
Oh, wow.
Kee'ahn, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. There's a message for all of us, absolutely. It's gorgeous, thank you. And today we're going to be together at the Share the Spirit Festival at the Sydney Music Marbowl. I cannot wait to introduce you and for everybody to hear you. What does the Share the Spirit Festival mean to you, like performing at it?
For me, I feel like there's strength in the community all coming together. I think on this particular day it is quite a sad and somber day. So I'm just hoping that I can sing and honour my ancestors and my people and honour all the different emotions that we're feeling. But really just the fact that we're all there and we're still here on Aboriginal land is what I'll be celebrating today.
I've been honoured to introduce you, that's for sure. And people can catch you live stream the event on the Facebook page, Jo.
Yes, you can catch up. If you haven't got yourself tickets to get along to My Music Bowl, or if you're not actually in Melbourne, you can see the Share the Spirit Festival on their Facebook page. I believe they're streaming live there. Kee'ahn, thank you so much. That was just absolutely glorious. We can purchase that single, and you've got more music coming our way as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for listening, and I really enjoyed the time.
Thanks, Kee'ahn. You have a wonderful time at Share the Spirit today.
Thank you. Well, today we are bringing you a celebration of Australian music, and we are so thrilled to have with us on Broad Radio legends of Australian music, Deborah Conway and Willy Zygier. Thanks for coming on Broad Radio.
Pleasure.
Now, I haven't actually made it out into the world to see live music yet, but I understand that you guys played yesterday at the, what are they called, the Sounds Better Together concert series. How does it feel to have people coming together again? Just generally speaking, we're able to get out and enjoy music as it's intended.
It was awesome. I mean, the crowd were crazed, actually. They were flocking the stage. They were almost ripping their clothes off. They were so excited. We had to calm them down.
No, but I mean, just generally speaking, we've been away from live music for so long. It must be just gratifying to know that now you can have a live audience again.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, it's been a very interesting year for that, because we have made connections via these digital technologies that we're all tragically becoming expert in, or well, some of us more expert than others. And it's kind of, there's a sort of a comfort that that you can take from being in the cocoon of your own room and yet still be narrowcasting out to a bunch of people who are interested in listening. And I think a lot of people have done that. You know, I've seen concerts from all over the world, from the most wonderful, incredible musicians who would normally play in vast arenas, and they're just in their back bedroom and they're, you know, strumming away their latest piece to whoever's listening. And I think it's somehow it strangely it has become quite a humanising thing.
Yeah, but it's not the same as the flesh and blood, really. It's nice to be in the same room as real, breathing people, I think, personally.
We've been lucky too. Our daughter, Alma, has organised a Christmas show every year for the last few years. And this one was her third one. She presents Alma's Zygier Very Jewish Christmas, which happens in the middle of December, and we get to play to 2 sold-out shows at the Jazz Lab, and that was really good fun. So it's kind of like the Wainwright Christmas show, so the whole family plus extra musicians, and it was, I have to say, it was very heartening. Everybody walked away with a great big smile on their faces from the people working behind the bar to every punter there, and of course all of us musicians as well. So that was good fun.
What is the feeling like amongst musicians for 2021 after the year that we've just had?
I'd say uncertainty, really. No one knows what the hell is going on, and 2020 showed us that anything can happen. So it's great that Australia's mostly in the state that it's in, but it's also a little bit precarious. You feel like anything could change at any moment. So we have to see what happens with the vaccine. Small gigs are on. There's a few larger gigs creeping in, and fingers crossed, hopefully it'll be good.
I think what 2020 has kind of shown us all, you know, musicians and everybody, we're not in kind of special class at all, is that, you know, you've got to take value in the things that you can control. And so you kind of circle the wagons and take advantage and make that inward life, that internal life, richer and more expansive than the external life, which has been quite shriveled this year.
Yes, and I would say that the amount of music that I enjoyed online, as you alluded to, really did contribute to my internal life. So I want to say thank you to all the musicians such as yourself who were doing beautiful online events for us as we sat alone or perhaps with just a couple of our family members in lockdown. It really had a huge impact for the rest of the world.
Yeah, and everybody was doing it,
Yeah.
really. People didn't stop playing.
No,
Music's so vital that musicians will keep playing whether you pay them or not, whether you can see them or not. And people want to listen to it.
Sadly, everybody's figured that out now.
I know. Well, we're very, very grateful that you're here playing for us today as we celebrate the music of Australia. So shall I introduce you formally?
Please go ahead, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the amazing Deborah Conway and Willy Zygier.
I might have been a teacher, a rabbi, or a preacher then. But as the path got narrow, I understood I wasn't one of them. Not for me, a shepherd for a flock of lost souls. I sing imperfect words. The whole of my tongue, I got something for everyone. As I've gotten older, I don't have the steady shoulder I like. My framework is more fragile. It's true, I'm less agile fade. Not for me. A pugilist strapping on the curves. I sing imperfect words. All of my time, I got something forever. When I was a dealer, I met people who were meaner than me. They stole my pot, my cash. Well, you could say they let me down reliably. Not again. A merchant of magical herbs. I sing imperfect words. All of my time, I got something for them. All of my time, I got something for everyone. So gather around, friends, come listen to me. Because it's all I live, the life of eternity. Well, I'm a bit bad one. Breathe at your door. You let me in with these words I sing. You let me in once more. Full of choice, I got to use my voice, faith, smile. In my strange chosen profession, I got permission to stay a child. Not for me, responsibility, I'd rather be off with the birds. I sing imperfect words. All of my time, I got something for you. All of my time, I got something for you. All of my time, I got something for everyone.
That was so beautiful. I can't help but give a big round of applause, but it doesn't ever sound that great next to a microphone. What is the name of that track?
The name of the track is Imperfect Words.
Imperfect Words.
From our last record. It came out in 2019. It's called The Words of Men.
Absolutely love it. I know that we can catch a lot of that on your Facebook too, if people want to check you out on Facebook, which is at Conway Zygier, I believe, is your Facebook handle.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can spell Zygier, which is Zygier.
Absolutely. Shelley, wasn't that beautiful?
It was absolutely stunning. It reminded me, my whole entire teenage years just came flooding back with that beautiful voice, and it just so many memories. So thank you. And it was lovely, you're right, to watch that intimate moment between the two of you at home. There is something extra special about being in your own home and being comfortable. It was just gorgeous. So thank you. How can we further support the music industry here in Australia?
Wow. That's a big question.
How can you further support the music industry?
It's a really tough time for musicians. It's very interesting because all this digital technology has changed the recording world. People don't buy much in terms of recorded music; they stream it.
It's a very strange time because I guess in some ways, musicians have been hit with the old one too. We were always, you always sold records. That was the thing. I mean, not that independent musicians ever made money by selling records in Australia because of just the way those things are balanced within a contractual sense for record companies. But at least, you made records and people bought them and you would make the money from the publishing. But then it became, streaming, the rise and rise of streaming, and people didn't pay for music anymore, and music became devalued because it was so everywhere. And then live music, made a huge comeback, and musicians were touring, and international acts were coming here, and plenty of people were going to many, many concerts. And then, of course, COVID hit, and suddenly the live scene has been obliterated as well. So it's a very interesting time where, in some way, I mean, music's not going away. And I guess the thing that musicians are now facing is how can we make this thing that we love to do also help us pay our rent and support our, children. And I guess that's the thing. But I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I think it's pretty hard to close the stable door after bolt. It's very difficult. Streaming services like Spotify, you can go there and you can stream your favourite artist song 100 times, but the money that doesn't really get passed on. If you sell,
it does, but it's a tiny.
It's a fraction of a cent or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, we're in interesting times, and I really don't want to see government just to entirely prop up every facet of the music business, because I don't know that makes great art either. So I feel in a total conundrum about it, and I've decided to become a baker.
Well,
I do make very good bread, actually.
Well, didn't we all become bakers during lockdown, apparently? Weren't we all making sourdough? I looked at the recipe and I went, I'm not doing that when I can buy a really good loaf
of bread. For years, so
she's good.
I had a good start.
There you go. Well, I mean, I feel like the answer is if you can see live music, do. When it's there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I feel for younger musicians, we're incredibly blessed. We've lived through the most extraordinary times. And I just really feel for our children and their friends and that generation, the upcoming generation of musicians that are now having to look at this whole new landscape of what it all means. And, it's perplexing.
Well, Deborah Conway and Willy Zygier, thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate the music of Australia today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. Make sure that you check out Deborah and Willy at Conway Zygier on Facebook. And that album was The Words of Men.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's available if you wanted to, if you happen to still have a CD player, some archaic thing that we used to all own. We do have CDs, so you can come and buy one at our website, which is deborahconway.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great day.
And you too. All the best.
We'll have more of Broad Radio after this.
Australia's harsh sun is proven to visibly age women by up to 20 years faster than those in the US. That's why you need sunscreen every day. Ask your Chemist Warehouse pharmacist which sunscreen is right for your skin.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
I'm sorry, Joe. I don't actually have any sound on you.
Oh, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
No, I can now. Yes, I can now.
Some would say that.
Isn't that the thing of this? year.
I was going to say
From
some
you,
would,
Jo.
some would say that's a blessing, Shelley. But you can hear me now, and I was just saying how beautiful is the music that we've been having with us today.
Oh, stunning. It's gorgeous. It's perfect.
So, but we're going to take a little sidestep, right? And I'm going to have to let our audience in on a little secret. Well, we do sometimes pre-record our interviews. And you might have noticed that my hair was a little different when we spoke with Deborah Conway only 5 minutes ago because I had it coloured on Friday. Oh, you know, this is the thing. When you've got dark roots and bleached hair, it's a difficult thing to manage, the timing of these things. So just go with us. In a moment, we're going to be bringing you an interview that we did with Catherine Fox, who is a journalist and co-author of one of my favourite books from last year, Womankind. I don't know if you've read it, but it's amazing. It's all about celebrating women and lifting women up. And we're going to be speaking about the fact that there are generally much less women nominated and many less women awarded Australian honours every year. And Catherine's going to give us some advice on how we can actually nominate women more so we have more women actually awarded. But we have to kind of share with you that we pre-recorded that chat because we spoke with Catherine before it was announced that Margaret Court was to be given Australia's greatest honour. And we kind of felt like we couldn't let that conversation go unnoticed. So for us, it feels, well, for me anyway, Shelley, I don't know about you, it feels like the wrong decision as far as, well, we were talking about values earlier in the show and being kind and inclusive and compassionate. And that isn't really the way Margaret Court has spoken about the LGBT community, and I guess that to us the values don't really fit as far as Australia's highest honour.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And it seems really strange that they're promoting her to our highest civilian honour of the Companion for the Order of Australia. It doesn't make sense. So I stand with, and I'm pretty confident you do and Broad Radio do as well, with Dr. Clara Tuckming Sue, and also journalist Kerry O'Brien, who last night said, I won't be receiving that award because of the damage that this does to the LGBTIQ community and the message that it sends. You know, I'm passionate about children, and the message this sends to these children is damaging. So
it is dangerous. It's dangerous because, as we know, for every child, it's difficult to understand who you are and to grow up loving yourself. But when you see yourself as a minority and you don't see yourself reflected in the culture around you as much, it is harder. And then to hear someone say things that are hurtful, and then for that person to be honoured, it's not something that it doesn't make me proud, I've got to say.
It doesn't make me proud, and it just doesn't make sense.
No. I tell you what does make me proud though, Shelley, were the Australians of the Year that were awarded last night. Look at that glorious photo.
Absolutely stunning. 4 women. It's just beautiful to see, isn't it?
I think that is the only time I've ever seen a stage of award recipients where they're all women, unless it was an actual sort of award specifically for women. I'm used to seeing a stage full of 4 men, but that is amazing. And what incredible examples of Australians they are. So Australian of the Year, of course, was Grace Tame, who was awarded the Australian of the Year award for her extraordinary courage and for using her voice to raise public awareness about the effects of sexual violence. She is an incredible young woman who has fought and fought for survivors of child sexual abuse to be heard. What an amazing young woman.
She's amazing. And her hashtag, Let Her Speak, it's just, she deserves this award. The work that she has done for children and survivors of child abuse is just, it's amazing. So I'm really glad that she received this award and that she's being honoured.
Yes, and I believe you've been in the room with the Senior Australian of the Year, Dr. Miriam Rose Ungamar-Bauman, who is she's a lifelong well-respected teacher in the Northern Territory, and she's done huge amounts for advocating for Indigenous culture. What's she like?
She is hysterical. She's funny. She puts you in your place. She tells you how it is, but at the same time, she tells you to stop and listen. Listen to the world around you, listen to country, and make sure that you are connecting with your community and your people. She's absolutely beautiful, and to see her win that award was just stunning as well.
And then
They
the two
all deserve it.
Oh, amazing. Our young Australian of the year was Isabel Marshall, who's been fighting against period poverty. And then the other amazing woman on that stage was Australia's local hero, Rosemary Kariaki, who works for migrants and refugees facing domestic violence, language barriers and financial distress. Those 4 women, they represent the Australia that I'm proud to be a part of.
They sure do. And I'm so glad that somebody took the time to nominate them.
Yeah.
And make sure that we know about the work that they do, because as Catherine Fox is just about to tell us, that we often do this long work and we're not sort of acknowledged because it's just constant work that's happening within the community.
You're exactly right, Shelley. Shall we hear from Catherine Fox, Ro? This day every year, the Australian Honours are announced, awarding men and women of our community who have done amazing things and contributed to this country. But traditionally, there has been a gender imbalance as far as who have been the recipients of those awards. Less women have been awarded and less women being nominated even. So there has been a movement to change this. And Catherine Fox, who is a journalist and author, is a part of the Honour a Woman movement. She joins us now. Thanks so much for joining us, Catherine.
It's a pleasure, Jo. Nice to be here.
Is this changing? And can you tell us why has this been a problem traditionally?
Well, I think we can go back actually thousands, if not hundreds of years to see why it's a problem. And I think traditional honours systems, and certainly in this country, were very much about people in quite established and traditional parts of our community and our business sector, in politics and so on. And they tend to be dominated at the very top levels by men. And so for many years, honours were very much dominated by men until about 4 years ago. Around 70% of Australia Day and Queen's Birthday honours, around 70% went to men. Now, women make up 51% of the population, so clearly that's not reflecting a substantial chunk of people, but also the achievements of that part of the population and the value that they add. And so it's one of those many areas that, as a gender equity advocate, I think needs to be addressed. We need to reflect the community that we're part of, and we also need to actually reward people who are doing a fantastic job, regardless of gender, race, disability, and so on.
Now, Catherine, you started the Honour a Woman campaign where you actually set yourself a goal of 50-50 by 2020 for women who are nominated for the Australian Honours. Have you achieved that goal? How close are you to it?
So I just want to be absolutely clear here, because I'm very obviously delighted to be an ambassador for the Honour a Woman campaign. I did not start the campaign. It was started 4 years ago by 3 outstanding women, Ruth McGowan, Carol Kee'ahn and Elizabeth Hartnell-Young. And they worked tirelessly over the last 4 years to raise awareness of their mission to see something more like a 50-50 split. But yes, I'm very pleased as an ambassador to say that yes, they have achieved quite a lot of success, but they're not where they wanted to be, and they want that campaign to continue. And they've very much brought together the group of ambassadors to make sure that awareness continued. I'm a journalist and a writer, so I am constantly speaking about these topics and writing about them in the media. And so there was a vast array of us who decided to sign up for that because we want to see this change. Those 3 women, by the way, always set themselves a 4-year period to get the campaign up and running, and they've now decided that they want others to take that over and continue that fantastic work. So no, it's not at the point that I think many of us really were aiming for. Nonetheless, big improvement. So it went from about 30%, which I mentioned before, to 41% women getting honours, which is a substantial increase, very welcome, and more work to be done.
And is it about, Catherine, rethinking how we value people? Is it about considering perhaps that achievements are not necessarily about what you see on the page, but it's, an ongoing contribution to a society, or, just thinking about contribution in different ways?
Yeah, look, I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there, Jo. It's definitely about looking at value. And this is one of the things that I speak about a lot when I speak to people in the business community and so on. We have a very historic and traditional idea about what adds value and what should be recognised. And traditionally women's work, their labour, has not been valued as highly as men. So it wasn't remunerated for many, many centuries, of course, although women always worked. They worked in the home, they worked in the fields, they then moved into working in factories, of course. But the value of a lot of the work that women do, particularly I would say in areas like the community, working in schools, the kind of the voluntary work that a lot of women do, I think it is very much about value. And the other thing I'd say that is really kind of interesting about giving women awards, and I helped set up the Financial Review's Women of Influence Awards, and so I'm very conversant with some reactions to some of this, whether it's a push to just see more women getting awards or indeed particular awards that are specifically for women. People often say, but why do we need that? Shouldn't women just be recognised? Well, unfortunately, what we do know is that if we just leave that out there as being a good idea, but don't do something more concrete about it, we rarely see that change, that shift from the 30 to the 41%. So I think we have to be quite focused on how we do it. And the other thing is that awards for women are much needed because the landscape hasn't shifted sufficiently. So when we set up those Women of Influence Awards in 2012, I was just bowled over by some extremely well-known, incredible women who were so grateful to receive those awards for the work that they'd done. So I think we've still got a lot of work to do to actually elevate and make visible the contribution that women make. And it's been interesting, hasn't it, during the pandemic to see women working in academia, health, science, the epidemiologists and so on. We've seen some extraordinary women with decades of experience stepping up, and I find that really encouraging. I think visibility is extremely important.
Couldn't agree with you more. Now, you talked about there being an increase, which is absolutely fantastic. What about women of colour and disability in the LGBTIQ community? Are they further underrepresented?
Oh, absolutely they are. And that's also, in fact, one of the goals of the three founders of Honour of Women was to increase representation and indeed award winners from Indigenous women, women of non-Anglo backgrounds, and just a much broader spectrum. And I have to say, I think that this is a conversation that we need to be having more often, and particularly when we talk about women's rights and what's going on in my area that I often concentrate on, women in the workplace. I think we actually have to broaden that and make sure that we're giving space to all women, that we don't, sometimes inadvertently, but nonetheless tend to concentrate on white women, more privileged women. So yes, certainly that needs to be concentrated on. And it was, as I say, one of the really ongoing aims of the Honour of Women campaign.
You know, Catherine, I feel like there are lots of different ways that we can acknowledge women. Certainly in Victoria, there is the honour roll for women. You can nominate a woman there, and I would highly encourage you to do so if you're in Victoria. And then there are different ways. I know that you were involved with the hashtag Celebrating Women book, Womankind, that Dr. Kristen Ferguson created. The two of you wrote the book together off the back of that beautiful hashtag that just took over Twitter. It was people celebrating and lifting up women. And here at Broad Radio, we're really about lifting each other up. And in fact, you can nominate an amazing woman. We're calling it Brilliant Broads, and you can go to broadradio.com.au to nominate someone who you think is particularly resilient or kind, or, they don't have to have done something amazing. But I think what women tend to do is contribute over a sustained period of time often. And those sorts of achievements, if you want to put it in inverted commas, I think, we do it in different ways, and it can be celebrated in different ways, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree, Jo, and I think it's often under the radar a bit, isn't it? Because that's for two reasons. One is there's an expectation that women will perform some of this community work, the family work and so on, and that expectation often means that you don't get thanked for it or rewarded for it, and that's not the reason that you do it. I just want to be clear about this. But it is lovely. Every human is the same. We like to be awarded or told or recognised for what it's about. Appropriate recognition and
thanks.
It's just thanked, exactly. And until and it's a bit of a vicious cycle, because until we do that, we don't value that, do we? It's as I say, it's expected but not rewarded or valued. But the other thing I can't help but add, as someone who wrote a book called Stop Fixing Women, giving awards to women is particularly important because women are penalised still in our society when they speak up for themselves, for example. They're, accused of big noting themselves. It's just not seen as congruent with being feminine. It's a very age-old stereotype, in fact, and it's not something innate. We're not born with a modesty gene, but it is something that we get reflected back to us. So a woman who's outspoken about what she's achieved, or in fact, even, dare I say, assertive, often finds that she gets great deals of pushback. And therefore, that's why I think it's actually even more important that we make a real effort to do this. And as I say, one of the things I learned from the Women of Influence Awards is what an extraordinary difference it made to the women who were awarded and the people who worked with them, who knew them, and so on. And I can't tell you, it's just such an uplifting thing to watch. And unfortunately, the Women of Influence Awards were not held last year for very obvious reasons, but they are ongoing, and there are now hundreds of women who've been named. And I still get people writing to me or speaking to me and saying how delighted and thrilled they were. And the same thing with Kirsten's campaign, Celebrating Women, and that book, which we continue to get lovely feedback from. So it's about sort of reinforcing the idea women are not all queen bees. They don't all stab each other in the back. In fact, quite the reverse. Most women, just because of the way they've been marginalised and all the things we've been discussing, are actually quite supportive of each other. But I would say, until quite recently, they've kept that a little bit under the radar again, because you do get a bit of pushback.
One of the things I think happens with women as well, it's your inner voice, because we have been told over and over again we cannot achieve, or this isn't a space for us. So as an inner voice that I've had over the years, which has stopped me from doing things as an Aboriginal woman, and I've had to change that conversation in my head, what would you say to women about changing their inner voice to a positive voice that enables them to put themselves forward?
I'd say two things. I think we always put the onus back onto women in those situations and say, oh dear, mentally you need to do a bit of a reboot and so on. Now, I suppose there's nothing particularly wrong with that, but it just worries me again with my Stop Fixing Women hat on. I think what we need to do is actually be changing the conditions that continue to reflect back those very punitive attitudes. I think we need to be looking at that much more broadly and stop saying to women, oh, you didn't think in the most positive way, and therefore the fact you've been discriminated against, well, that's your fault. I think we do way too much of that. Takes up way too much of our headspace. Let's divert some of that energy into changing those community attitudes, or at least challenging them. And look, I know this isn't something we usually talk about in these circles because people tick you off, but I think a little bit of anger sometimes, channeled, not unleashed, but a little bit of anger and irritation at some of the bias and discrimination can really keep you moving in the right direction, make you feel really incentivised to change it. I've got 3 daughters, so I sort of have this inbuilt need to see the world change. And unlike some people I know, I'm really optimistic about young women. I think they're incredibly savvy. They're not taking any rubbish. My girls are all in the workplace now, and I must say, it's, they've learnt that there's still a lot of barriers for them. They're incredibly privileged, don't get me wrong, but they are out there trying to change things, and I think that that's what we need to do. By all means, if you find it useful to read some, some of the apps or do some of that stuff that says stop that inner voice, of course, do it. But don't think that that's actually going to change the environment that you're in. That's the problem. So I think if we can all band together and make sure that we challenge that as a cohort, I don't ever recommend doing it on your own, but as a cohort, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely do need to speak up to match that inner voice. Couldn't agree more.
Yes, and I love this notion of some well-placed anger. I absolutely encourage that. As a cohort, we get together and we say, no, we don't cop this. Thanks very much. And in that, let's empower each other to nominate women, maybe looking at the list of Australian honours that you see and think to yourself, actually, I know some amazing women that should be on this list, and I'm angry about it that they're not. So make sure you nominate them. Thanks so much, Catherine Fox. It's been a delight to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you both. And happy, many successes with the program, because I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and we'll have more on Broad Radio after this.
I'm in a new strategy.
Well, today we are bringing you a musical celebration of Australia in all its diverse sounds and voices. So we're very pleased to bring you Aseel Tayah, who is a Palestinian-born artist, and she uses music to bring communities the experience of being an asylum seeker or refugee. Good morning, Aseel.
Good morning.
It's so lovely to have you on Broad Radio.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here. Before we get started and hear your beautiful voice, how can people hear your music? How can they find it?
They have to be there. That's, it's I'm just starting. For a long time, I couldn't really record, or like I didn't feel like I can, or like it's possible. And because of lots of other things, it made it hard for me to even perform before I came to Australia. So now I'm slowly kind of getting into things. Slowly there will be a channel and there will be like different kind of platform, but we're just starting.
But you are available, you know, we can find you on social media as well, and your website too,
Yeah.
which is Aseel Tayah, ASEELTAYAH.com. There you go. Thank you so much. Now you're going to sing for us today, and I understand that you've asked us to give you a word which will inspire the song that you sing.
Yeah, just choose a word that reflects today, reflects what you feel, reflects what the board radio, like reflects what you really feel deeply. And I've just come up with a song, not necessarily that I wrote, but something that really make me feel the same as well.
Okay, so I'm going to say understanding and listening to each other.
Okay, so there's a song my mom used to sing for us when we were like little ones that I love so much, and it's a song that I didn't like when I was a child at all. I was like, oh my God, why she's listening to it all the time? But it's about celebration and like when you are together in a space and listening to it, and it goes like that. It's like when people are far and you want to listen to them, it's like kind of bring you into the same space. يا جبل اللي بعيد صوبك حبايبنا بتموج مثل العيد وهمك متعبنا يا جبل اللي بعيد صوبك حبايبنا بتموج مثل العيد وهمك متعبنا اشتقنا لمواعيد حكينا تعذبنا يا جبل اللي بعيد قول لحبايبنا قول لحبايبنا بعد الحبايب بيعدوا بعد الحبايب عجبل علي بيعدوا والقلب دايب بعد الحبايب بيعدوا بيعدوا.
That
was the song.
Beautiful. And your mum sang that for you?
Yeah, my mom is a very good singer. She doesn't sing in general. It talks about the mountains that is far and how because we lived in different places and we couldn't see each other often, she will like kind of talk and sing about when you are together to make the best out of it, when you are celebrating to kind of enjoy it, which is so related to what is happening now with all the COVID lockdown together indoor, but kind of like now hopefully we can all celebrate ourselves and and kind of be together in a welcoming and beautiful place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Aseel. That is so much about what we're about, and that is listening to each other, finding understanding of each other, and celebrating being together. Thanks so much, Aseel.
Thank you.
And we'll have more Broad Radio after this. Well, Shelley, we're almost at the end of our show today, but there's something that has come to my attention, actually, between the two of us, and that is I'm a Collingwood supporter and you are a Carlton supporter. And this Thursday night, Collingwood and Carlton, the season opener for the AFLW, that's going to be an interesting little battle.
Be very, very interesting. Now, I've got my tickets, you've got your tickets,
I have.
so we'll see who walks out happy. So,
how are we looking
sure
for?
that you,
Go on.
I was just going to say, make sure that people get their tickets online, because you actually won't be able to buy your tickets at the stadium. So they're $10 each, and children 18 years and under, they are actually free, but you have to get your tickets online before you go. And they're only $10, and it just makes everything so professional, and it's just a great start to the year. And of course, with COVID safe, so numbers are not as high as we would like them to be, but it's great that we can still get there and watch this live footy. But I think the Blues are going to win the actual premiership, Joe, so I don't like the chances on Thursday night.
That's a massive call before the season starts. But I agree with you. You know what? I think, Shelley, it's fantastic that they're actually charging at the gate this year, that they're charging for AFLW tickets for adults, because, we should value this. It's a fantastic sport. The girls work really hard. They train so hard. As we know, they all have jobs and careers as well at the same time. So why not actually show our appreciation with, coin as well? Yeah,
and it's also going to further the development of women's football as well. So it's the right step. And keep an eye out for Fremantle and North Melbourne as well. It's going to be a ripper of a season, and I'm glad it's starting this Thursday.
And how are the girls looking? I know that you're in contact with a lot of the AFLW players. Are they excited about this season? Because, of course, last year they didn't get their grand final. COVID kind of just put a dead end to their season. It was absolutely heartbreaking for them.
It was heartbreaking, and I think this is the season that the AFL actually owes AFLW, I think, but also we've learned a lot about the virus as well. So we know how we can contain the virus. They're excited. They've made COVID things happen within clubs, and the AFL's put things in place by moving GWS into a hub. So they're excited, they're nervous, and they're hoping they get a full season. But like I said, we've learned more about the virus, so I think it's going to happen. Yeah,
amazing. Well, may the best team win on Thursday night, Shelley. You seem very cocky, which I would say is not
confident.
Well, it's not unlike most Carlton supporters I know. So that's
so
right.
We roll, Joe.
I know. And look at me, I'm a Collingwood supporter with all my own teeth. I was born into it. I haven't got a choice. It's hereditary, okay? And I'm very proud to be a Collingwood supporter. So I can't wait to see both of the teams run out there on Thursday night at Icon Park, and all the best to all of the teams in AFLW this year. Now, we're going to see out our show today with one more beautiful musical act. His name is Scott Darlow. Can you tell us about him, Shelley?
Yeah, Scott Darlow, he's a magnificent man from Victoria, an Aboriginal man, and he's spent years working inside of classrooms and teaching children about the history of Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, through music. And he's got new albums, new singles coming out, so it's great that he's sharing his music and his stories with us today.
Absolutely, and he shared with us this particular recording of his song Sorry, which you will see was recorded live in the maximum security yard at Bathurst Prison. Pretty amazing. We would love you, whilst you're watching, if you would like to share, if you would like to chuck us a like on Facebook, if you would like to click and like and what am I saying? I'm saying click and collect.
Click, like, and share.
Click, like, and share. That's what you were telling me, Shelley. I've been doing too much online shopping, so all I can think is click and collect, but we're not collecting anything here today.
No. Click, like and share.
Click, like and share. And we will see you next week at the same time, Tuesday, 9 a.m. on Broad Radio. Meanwhile, we'll leave you with Scott Darlow. Have a great day.
This is the title track to our current record. It's about our people. It's called Sorry. What you say, what you do, why can't you see my point today? Look around you, try to tell you, doesn't seem to matter what I say. People hurting, people crying, stolen history is here today. Here to stay. Across the nation, generations feel the sorrow and the shame. Bloodline history, family misery. Look into my eyes and share my pain. Dying inside 'cause of your pride. Why won't you say, why won't you say? Won't you say? Say sorry for the tears down through the years you cried. Sorry for respect that you've been denied. Many thousand years we've been living here. With the land we've been one day and night. Then they came along, stole our land and song and carried right on with their genocide. Yet you choose to say that was yesterday. Sorry isn't needed.